Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new edition of the Batter Up Podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. Mike, the old ops guy, Danny Boy, with you, gentlemen. Good morning and happy March. We get regular season baseball this month. How we doing?
Doing very, very well. Alive.
It's not working, but I'm trolling the both of you while wearing this Washington National
You're
shirt.
wearing a Walgreens t-shirt and you know it.
See,
um,
that's why it doesn't work because the pun master always ruins my
well,
parade.
here's the thing, and I don't want to divulge this, but there were years, and it's still kind of true, where I just hated the freaking Nationals. When they won the World Series in 2019, it bothered me because I hated those guys. The only saving grace for me was Bryce Harper told the truth when he signed in Philly and said he would bring a title back to DC, and the Nationals won the World Series. So
the
thanks for that, Bryce.
the Washington Nationals have always been an enemy, none more than when you see your president of your network and the vice president rooting for them against my Mets.
Yeah, I mean they got a lot of young players, so put some stock in them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, when we get to the Eastern Division previews, which will come soon, I love a lot of their young players, especially CJ Abrams. He's looks like a stud. But today we'll preview the Western divisions. We did have a major signing again on a late night drop from, I think it was Jeff Passan. The San Francisco Giants and third baseman Matt Chapman are in agreement on a 3-year, $54 million contract. Chapman will receive opt-outs after the first 2 seasons. So, Mark, we were talking about this before we got on the air. This is outside of the money factor. This is the same deal Cody Bellinger essentially got.
Pretty much. San Francisco's been trying to make splashes for years by saying they're going to get Aaron Judge, they were going to get Carlos Correa, and never happened. When I saw this, and then I see the way he can get out of it, it's basically a 1-year rental with his option to do what he wants. And like Mike said, it pretty much mimics the Bellinger deal as well.
Oh, go ahead, Dan. I thought you were saying
No, I'm
so Bob Melvin said this on Chapman because he managed him in Oakland. And I quote, he's a terrific clubhouse presence. He's a leader. He's a tenacious player, and it rubs off on people, close quote. Chapman had spent the past couple of years in Toronto being a very important part of that Blue Jays team. But now, Mark, to your point, he goes to a San Francisco team that over the past couple of years has been really active in free agency, but more so swinging and missing. They missed on Aaron Judge and had to settle for his brother Arson Judge. Michael Conforto comes over, but he got hurt last year. No matter what the Giants do, they will continue to be in the shadow of the Los Angeles Dodgers based on the offseason they had. But I think you look around and you say, okay, well, Arizona won 84 games and that was good enough for a wild card. Can we do that? That's going to be an interesting question. And that's why I'll say here, they need to go get one of the two starters, whether it's Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery.
We were speaking about that right before we went live, is that the There's 3 chips left, technically, waiting to fall. You got Snell, Montgomery, and JD Martinez. Blake Snell, I mean, Dan, you're the Yankee fan here. You know the Yankees had offered, I believe it was 150 million over 6 years, and he said no. There is rumor I've heard that they're still trying to work on a deal that will be lower end. I don't know because I've only seen bits and pieces. Have you seen anything to that effect?
Like in terms of like them actually signing him, or
Trying to go back after him to get him on a lesser deal.
I mean, it all depends on what Snell wants to do. But I mean, the Yankees are not going to up their offer. It is what it is. So either he takes the offer because he's getting multiple years apparently. So he takes the offer and then goes on and becomes a Yankee, goes into pinstripes, or he goes elsewhere. And look, the Yankees, as much as it would kill me if they don't get Blake Snell, and it ain't gonna shed a tear.
The last I've heard are the Phillies have considered a short-term offer. The Angels have monitored the whole thing, and I believe San Francisco. I haven't heard anything since the latest Yankee offer, but I think everyone's keeping tabs.
Yeah.
I think you have to.
Unless you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, then you don't.
Well, even the Red Sox with Montgomery, like they were in talks for like over a week, and they still have not gotten a deal done.
I don't know what the Red Sox problem is, man. Like
What
you've
you
got
do?
you've got it. I don't want to say you got a team ready to win, but you've got a superstar third baseman. Let's put something around him and let's see what we got.
Well, they did that by adding CJ Cron. That's going to protect Devers a little bit. Not much.
But CJ Cron's not going to help you win or lose a division. Jordan
No,
Montgomery.
but it's going to help protect you in the lineup. That's what they got him for.
No, I get that. But if you're the Boston Red Sox, you won the World Series in 2018. Since then, you traded Mookie Betts, and it's legitimately been mainly downhill from there. This offseason, you fired Chaim Bloom because he did what he had to do, and that was reset their payroll, basically. And then you played the role of the Giants. You were rumored to be in on free agents, and you swung and missed at every single free agent. And that's a problem. Because argument's sake, when we do the Eastern Division predictions, I guarantee you we'll all have the Boston Red Sox being in last place in the AL East. Are you shaking your head just to disagree with me, or are you just?
Yes, I'm shaking my head to disagree with you. We'll when we get there, we'll get into it. And no, it's not the Yankees. Then don't worry.
They're not.
People of Baltimore, he'll give you
no way.
Yes.
Baltimore's the holy trinity of teams right now. If you want to put it anywhere, that is a superstar team that I think is missing some pitching. That's what they're missing.
But again, Chapman goes to the Giants, 3 years, $54 million. 2 opt-outs. Again, while more on the Giants in a bit, we will preview the Western divisions. But the other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into that, last week, I'm hoping I pronounced this right, Jen Powell became the first female umpire to umpire a spring training game since 2007. So
it's a great thing for baseball, and it should not have taken this long. But it's a great move forward to not only make the fans happier, but also attract a new, maybe healthier demographic.
And from what I was told, she did a way better job than Angel Hernandez could ever do.
Patchy could do a better job than Angel Hernandez, and he has one eye.
Dude, the joke is he can only see half the plate.
Angel Hernandez apparently thought the plate was 5 feet to the left or right every time, so we got a shot.
Telling you, man, if a woman has more respect as an umpire than a man that's been doing this for decades, we got problems with men out there, umpires.
But congratulations to her.
Yeah.
Big step forward.
It is a monumental step forward. It's really, really, I'm really happy to see. And again, we're still not there yet, but I'm very happy to see that, baseball is really taking this stuff seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to. We can no longer ignore the fact that women want to be a part of the great game. We have to accept it, and that's just that.
The next step would be umpiring a regular season game, which would be awesome to see as well. I think we're starting to get the more inclusion. The Yankees, one of their minor league affiliates has a female manager now. The Giants have a female coach.
Yep.
The inclusion is so important. And Mark, you brought it up. The demographics. A little girl could be watching a ball game and go, "Oh, I can do that eventually." And I think that's really important to see in a world that is dominated by male.
Schmucks like us.
Schmucks like us, baby. We were born to run. Shout out Bruce Springsteen. No, but I think that's a really cool thing to witness.
Yeah.
And so congratulations to her. Hopefully down the line, whether it's this year or not, she'll get to go umpire a regular season Major League Baseball game. All right. You guys want to go AL West first or NL West first?
Dan, since you're the highest ranking, which one are we doing?
Go the AL West.
All right.
The AL West.
It always has my concerns.
Because the reigning, defending, undisputed World Series champs reign there. All right. Last year, the ALS standings looked like this. Bill Murphy's beloved Houston Astros finished in first place with a record of 90-72. The Texas Rangers followed with the same record, got a wild card. We know what happened later. They wound up winning the World Series. The Seattle Mariners went 88-74. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim went 73-89. And Anthony Rendon still didn't love baseball. And the Oakland A's went 50-112, and there's still a loose possum in the Coliseum.
There's a lot of loose things in that stadium.
Key moves in the AL West. The A's acquired pitchers Alex Wood, Ross Stripling, Scott Alexander, and Dan, an old friend of yours, Miguel Andujar.
Okay.
The Astros got more haters. Josh Hader signs there. The Angels, Robert Stevenson, Matt Moore, and another one of Dan's old friends, Aaron Hicks.
Trash.
The Mariners brought in some offense, Mitch Haniger, Luke Raley, and then Mitch Garver, as well as reliever Gregory Santos. And the Rangers bring in Kirby Yates, David Robertson for the bullpen, and Tyler Mahle for the rotation. We will get into the Rangers rotation in a minute. I really don't want to pay much attention to the A's just because of not what they stand for, but because the A's aren't going to win this division. Sorry.
Be a hell of a thing if they did, though.
But here's what I will say. The A's are gonna do everything possible to, for the city of Oakland, because I know they respect the fans over there. And they're probably gonna build up until Vegas. So don't be surprised if they do come out and start to, piss teams off by winning some games that they aren't supposed to win.
The funniest thing I saw on Twitter the other night was the A's president was tweeting about beating the Giants in a spring training game. He goes, nothing better than beating the Giants. And you scroll down the comments and everyone's like, sell the team, sell the team. And then there was a fan fest, and the fans there were big fan signs showing sell the team. So the A's. But
it is what it is.
Okay. Mark, I think you'll understand this version of the Oakland A's.
Yeah.
They are the Cleveland Indians for Major League.
Yes. Yes and no. Yes and no. There's only one thing. Who the hell is Pedro Serrano on the Oakland Athletic?
Brett Rooker.
Damn, that was fast. Okay, I agree.
That's the only A's hitter I got. All right. So that's the A's stuff. Okay, let's get into the Angels, because I think the Angels over the years have been one of those teams we want them to do well, because we want to see Mike Trout on the big stage. We wanted to see Shohei Ohtani on the big stage. And it feels like every year it was a massive letdown. Now Ohtani's gone, and Mike Trout remains. And it still feels like, Mark, this team ain't it.
You got an Angels team that is literally done a 180. Now Shohei is gone. So now they're back to starting point all over again. The key thing is not that they signed Dan's favorite player, Aaron Hicks, or anything. No, they got to go out and play. And to be completely honest, if I'm the owner of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, as Mike likes to say, and I see Rendon, sticking by his statement, not caring, not giving shit, I don't care if he's guaranteed money. I'll get a kid from the stand who will take more pride in trying to do it than what he's doing as it is. Mike Trout is back as the face of this team again. And I think that's going to be for the better. I think the team got too much full of it with Ohtani and Trout, and they never really got to see that two of them together for a full season ever. So I think the Angels will impress a little bit. Dan, what do you think?
I mean, they have a chip on their shoulders. So they certainly they don't have the players, obviously, to compete for the division. But if managed right, because they do have some good players, managed right, they have Ron Washington, the great Ron Washington.
Absolutely.
I know he doesn't get talked up as much as a good manager, but he did have some good moments in Texas. So he went to the World Series. So you just keep those in mind. I really think that they can impress enough where they can probably make a run at a wild card. I don't know if they'll get the wild card, but the big factor, Mark, you just said it, is Trout. And there's no more excuses with Trout. Like, he's the guy on this team that's going to be the leader. because he's been there the longest, and he is their best player. And I don't want to hear that he isn't.
I think that you're right, Dan. Like, but organizationally, they're gonna have to make a decision, and whether it's this year, after this year, or if it's 2 or 3 years down the line, they're gonna have to make a decision on what they are, because you have to evaluate yourself. You couldn't win with Trout and Pools. You couldn't win with Trout and Ohtani. Now the situation is Mike Trout's getting older. Mike
Mhm.
Trout is becoming a 130, 110 game a year guy because of injury. Mike Trout said when he reported to camp, like he's not even thinking about his no trade and whatnot. I think organizationally, the Angels are going to have to make a decision on whether they move on or not from Mike Trout, because as much as I love Mike Trout and I have so much respect for guys who stay with one team through their whole career, the Angels, for better or worse, have been stuck in the middle for so long that Joseph Gordon-Levitt can't even see the Angels in the outfield anymore. It's some other little kid. But
A movie which deserves to be remade.
yeah, shout out Danny Glover. But that's where we're at. They may have to move on from Trout because it might be what's best for the organization. And because you're not trading him at his peak when you could have, the reward just might not be the same. So they have so many things to weigh out over the next, I mean, July 1st and then going into the offseason, because you're right, they can compete for a wild card, but I look at it like this. You're going to get one team out of the AL Central because the rest of the division's crap. The AL East is where you're going to make your money. Baltimore, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. Boston's probably not a playoff team, and the Rays always find a way. And then in your own division, you've got both teams in Texas and the Seattle Mariners, who are a question mark within themselves. So the Angels have a lot to weigh in here. And Artie Moreno, you're just lucky people like Disneyland so much.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to really look at this team by June. Like, where are they at the end of June?
Right.
And then start really making some of those decisions. But what I'm saying is, if the Angels are, a game, 2 games within striking distance, it wouldn't kill you to try to go for it, even if it doesn't work out.
Right. You're not wrong, but you went for it last year.
But
And
last year there was injuries.
no. I'm not saying you're wrong, but they went all in last year at the trade deadline to
Right.
say this is going to push us over the top, and Shohei's going to stay.
Right, but that didn't happen, and we now
Right.
know that Shohei was hurt, so he was not 100%. Even though he was still slamming home runs, he was not.
But my point is, you only have so many prospects you can dangle.
Yeah.
That teams are going to have an interest in. Now, if you're really going to go for it, go sign Blake Snell.
I mean, I agree with you.
Like, if you really want to go for it, you go sign that top of the rotation guy that you've been clamoring to us for years and years and years, ever since you lost Garrett Cole to the New York Yankees. Mark, you want to chime in?
Not on that, no. I think that was pretty. I think that was all nicely stated. Instead of adding more fodder to it, we'll keep moving.
All right. All right, shout out Patchy for the next team we'll talk about because he knows all about fish markets in Seattle. The Mariners, to me, are the ultimate wild card, not just in the American League West, but I think in the entire American League. They have this great rotation mark. The question is, do they have enough offense surrounding Julio Rodriguez?
When you look at this team, like Mike said, their pitching is stellar. I mean, it's not the best in baseball, but it's a solid five core team. And then you put it just think like, is there an offense around their big star, the young rookie Julio Rodriguez? And you look at what they've done to help out. They signed Mitch Haniger, you signed Mitch Haniger. You get Garver over from Los Angeles to be your catcher to help with Kyle Raleigh.
Garver came from Texas.
Sorry, my bad. Dodgers, whatever. You do have plenty of people. You got Luke Raley, you got Ty France. None of these guys are, definite all-stars. But if you want to call it anything, a wild card team is what they are because they're gonna impress at times. And I think the big key to this team is that their youth is going to help them get through the dog days of summer. And playing in a dome does kind of help a lot.
Oh, man. All right. Dan, thoughts on the Mariners?
The Mariners kind of scare me, but in a way that makes me worry about them. Because let's be real, these players that they got don't scream, I'm gonna go for a playoff run. It screams like they had no one to turn to. Payroll probably a big issue. I don't know. Maybe teams aren't as interested in the Mariners. The Mariners kind of a boring team.
Seattle's a beautiful city.
Yeah, nice city, great city,
yeah,
great fans. I mean, I just think that, with Seattle, I feel like, they're sort of in this weird, tiny area where like they don't know what they want to do, but they want to make noise. But you can't make noise because you don't know what you want to do and you don't have the tools. And as a Mariners fan, it's got to be kind of frustrating, because you have one of the best young players in J-Rod that is killing it and trying to get better, and he's projected to get better. And he's going to be pretty much the only one. He's not going to be the only one, but you know what I mean. He's going to be
the face of the franchise.
He's the top tier of the franchise. So, to actually give you some sort of relevancy. But the Mariners should not be here just to be relevant. They should be here to compete for a World Series, just like they did in 2022 and everything. Like they should be competing because they deserve that. Fans deserve that.
You have this all-star rotation with Luis Castillo, George Kirby, all these guys, these young pitchers who are so good. You may want to take one of those young starters and trade them for an impact bat to help Julio Rodriguez. And you go back into the early part of the offseason, they traded Eugenio Suarez to Arizona.
I didn't quite understand, but
right, like he's a home run machine. And back in my mind was, okay, if you're going to back that up by signing Chapman, that makes some sense. They didn't do it. And you wind up seeing what Chapman got. You don't understand why they didn't pull that trigger. So I'm confused about the direction of them offensively. They're going to pitch because that's what they do. And Scott Service is a pretty good manager. But at the deadline, you're going to see they're going to be in need of a bat. And I don't know what's going to be out there for them, but they're going to have to pull a trigger on something massive if they want to be on the upper echelon of the American League. All right. That's the Mariners. Then we go to the Houston Astros.
Dan's favorite team.
Consistent.
I said Dan's favorite team.
Well, consistent. Dusty Baker steps down. He retires. In comes Joe Espada. They bring in Josh Hader. And they re-sign Jose Altuve to a 5-year contract.
Houston Astros. There's one player I was hoping the Houston Astros would be willing to trade, and I was hoping they would trade with the Mets and that he would want to come here, and that's Alex Bregman. I believe his contract is done after this year, and yes, I believe
Bregman's up.
Okay, and that he is going to be that top free agent come the end of this year, and every team is going to take a look at him. I mean, who would not want a player like this? The guy is always shown up to play, plays hard, plays fast, and plays on a great team. I hate this Astros team because it's so damn good. Yeah. And, I looked through it. Mike and I had talked, and I'm sure Dan and Bill have talked. We all wanted to take a shot at getting Josh Hader. I mean, that would be a great fill-in for any bullpen. But
instant closer with the Yankees, so it's like nothing against Clay Holmes. He's done a good.
But that's what I'm saying. I am surprised that Hader took the setup role. It didn't make sense to me. I mean, he had a perfect.
I understand. He wants to be on a winning team, and he knows that he could be. He knows he can get 3 outs, whether he's a closer, whether he's not.
It's a very good statement.
And what they did too with the Hader signing is they've shortened the game. Their starter doesn't have to go 7 or 8 innings. Their starter can go 6 innings. And then I got Brian Abreu in the 7th. I got Ryan Presley in the 8th. And I got Josh Hader in the 9th.
Well, also, I mean, they don't even have to go into they can go into the 7th inning.
Yeah.
Short term. I mean, you can even use Hader earlier.
Yeah.
You can get more
interchangeable parts.
You can't do that all the time. He's going to get tired. But, you can certainly, on days where, your bullpen needs some rest, if your starter can go 6 1/3, and then you can bring in that reliever that can get the rest of the outs in the 7th inning, and then probably an out in the 8th inning and ask Hader do a 5-out save. Yeah, it's perfect. Perfect.
And by the way, their starters are in slouches. Framber Valdez, really good. Yeah. Christian Javier, when he's on, really good. Some guy named Justin Verlander, never heard of him. They are so good at what they do. And then, Mark, you brought up Bregman before, but he'll put up his numbers. Altuve will put up his numbers. Then they got this beast of a man in Yordan Alvarez.
44.
Like, he is.
I think that's a bigger key with the Astros is scoring runs, because the pitchers can do everything. They'll shut you out. You don't score runs, that gives the other team a reason to stay in it, and that's not what you want if you're the Astros. Now, I'm not worried about that with the Astros. I know they're going to be good hitters up and down the lineup, because that's the case every year. It doesn't matter who they lose, they'll find someone.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker is also a big part for them too. He drove in over 100 last year.
And you got Jeremy Pena coming back after a little bit of an injury.
He's a big one for me. Like, he needs a big year after not having a great year last year. But off the postseason of the year prior, he gets a little bit of offense from me. But they are just so good at what they do.
And even catcher, Christian Javier is a good catcher, and hard to have a good hitting catcher, but he's such a good defensive catcher as well. He gets that ball out fast.
Yeah, they've got so much talent. And you know this. They're in it at the deadline. They're going to go for it. That's what they do.
Well, as Mets fans, Mike and me, we're very happy to have seen Justin Verlander go back to the Astros because that brought Drew Gilbert and Luis Angel Acuna. So,
Ryan Clifford. Acuna was the Scherzer deal.
sorry. Okay, doesn't matter. Still works for me. Still works for me.
But by the way, if Verlander does not pitch 140 innings this year, he is off the Mets payroll next year.
Correct.
So that is something else too.
What you're telling me, Mike, is you're praying for an injury. Because that's literally
No. I'm just like, no, Dan, let me tell you this. If there is one guy I don't want to see get hurt, it's actually Justin Verlander because I love watching the man pitch.
but
I
don't want to pay.
No, I'm just making a note. I don't care if he gets paid or not. The amount of money that Mets pay people who aren't on the roster, it's I'm immune to it at this point. Bobby Bonilla still gets $1 million.
And as you can see, he started the trend. Now all the players have deferred payment. I think Shohei Ohtani is getting deferred payments.
Don't get me started on that
197.
Don't get me started on that contract.
I'm not. I'm just saying.
That is the biggest flaw in the system we've got. All right. And then you got the Texas Rangers, who all they did last year was win the damn World Series. And Dan, you talked about injuries, but they're going to start the season without Jacob deGrom, who we don't know, and without Max Scherzer, who we've heard June, maybe July for when he could come back.
I'm starting to think that the Rangers got duped with DeGrom. I'm really starting to think about that. Which kind of sucks because, DeGrom really wanted to go to Texas and Texas really wanted him. So it's like, it's a shame that it's not working out so far. But of course, y'all foresaw this. You knew he was injured. You knew you didn't care. So it's like,
Well, it's not that I didn't care. It was the fact that we knew going into that offseason, there was something wrong with DeGrom that he could, after that hip injury. There was a problem. The Mets medical staff is probably the best medical staff in all of baseball. Told Steve Cohen something. That's why it wasn't that hard for him to move him. Rangers did their own physicals and everything on him. They passed him. Somebody told Steve Cohen, let him go.
And it's a difficult thing. It was to let him go, but you know what? Texas signed him for big money. And unfortunately, it's just he's pitched into injury for so many years now in a row. It feels like that peak of him where he was the best pitcher in baseball feels like it was so long ago. And I still remember the All-Star game in Cincinnati where he comes in and Joe Buck says the line when he strikes out the side, "Hi, I'm Jacob deGrom, and with my stuff, I could be the best pitcher in baseball." Fast forward a couple of years later, he was the best pitcher in baseball. He just pitched on lousy Met teams.
Joe Buck, not a sponsor, and thank God for that. When you look at this Texas Ranger team, besides the pitching, Corey Seager had a hell of a year, even though he got off to a slow start. They have a nice young team built around them. I mean, you got Jonah Heim as the catcher. I mentioned Seager. You got Josh Jung, Ezekiel Duran. And, and you have Adolis Garcia. You got a team that can definitely contend this year. The question becomes, as Mike and Dan really put the nail on it, is you're starting the season without your number one and number two pitchers, and I can think of another team that has that problem as well.
And they got a kid named Wyatt Langford who's tearing it up in spring training.
I will be honest, I have not seen every spring training news, so I do not know.
I just get
I better start looking into
but
him.
he's been tearing it up. Evan Carter, the kid who came in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Like, they have an abundance of young talent to the point where we might not even know what the word untouchable means for some of their prospects because they have to go for it now. But the other thing, Mark, and you brought up Seager and Simeon and Scherzer and DeGrom. The biggest go for it move they made was hiring Bruce Bochy.
Yes,
Like,
I agree with you on that.
There is not a manager in baseball better than Bruce Bochy. By the way, if he had just remained retired, he'd be going to the Hall of Fame whatever his time
whenever he was up.
Because,
whenever he was up.
But he's such a good manager. And this team is going to remain competitive because of all the young talent they have, and they have the manager at the moment.
I mean, I'm spanning through their pitchers quickly because I don't know, even I don't know everybody. Mike had mentioned Tyler, which actually is a solid pickup for a back end rotation. He'll go 6 innings. He might give up 9 runs, but he'll go 6 innings.
Well, he's also recovering from Tommy John, so we don't know when he's coming back.
Right. The name that I think has to step out is Eovaldi. I think he needs to get back to what he looked like in Boston when he was that dominant pitcher. It was the reason why Texas went and got him. He hasn't been that in Texas yet. So he's one who needs to step up while Scherzer and DeGrom are out.
And John Gray.
But Valdi's pitched well enough. I mean, he's not terrible.
I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm just saying he has to step it up another level.
Yeah.
He is not as dominant as he was in Boston, though.
Can you be dominant in that kind of a ballpark where the ball just flies?
Yeah.
I
think he's done well enough to I
think he's good. Really.
The Rangers, and I know they have some young people coming up, but if the Rangers knew there are still issues with DeGrom, why didn't they re-sign Montgomery? Even if it was
this comes back to their TV deal.
But I don't care.
I'm not arguing with you.
How is that guy still out in the market? And he said he wanted to come back. That's the big thing.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me. Still doesn't.
Instead, you signed. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Dan. I believe Montgomery is a Boris client, correct? And so is
everyone remaining is a Boris client.
Well, right. So
1 year big deal.
I mean, this guy's holding all those chips in his hands, and you know what he's saying? Just call. People are gonna call. Jordan Montgomery, to me, is better than Blake Snell. I think he will be the first to go, and then Snell will fall right behind him. The question is, what teams does Jordan Montgomery make sense? Obviously, he wanted to go back to Texas. Why wouldn't you? You just won a World Series with them. I don't.
And he was a huge star.
Right. I don't understand the stupid TV rights deal. I think it's stupid, whatever. Okay. No offense. The Yankees, with everything with that, when they had to have the hair neat and everything, no wild hair. Donnie Baseball had good hair. Image is everything. Winning isn't everything. Going out and being able to put a competent team on the field is what you need to do. And Jordan Montgomery is a number 2 starter on any team in this league, possibly a number 1 for certain others.
I've been talking to some of my Yankee fan friends, and one of them brought up the fact that his lovely spouse is still studying in New York.
Yes, but is she in Queens or is she in the Bronx studying?
Who cares?
I
It's
mean, New
Florida.
York's New York.
Well, no, I know, but if she was
Florida,
closer to Queens, I would have a little more confidence there.
Uh,
you know?
Less
I,
drive
I
time.
think if they had interest, it would have been done.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
don't
no,
disagree with you.
I agree, and that's on the Yankees.
It's both. Yeah, it's both.
Oh, yeah, it's on both, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, instead, the Rangers have Kirby Yates, reliever, injured all the time. Tyler Molly, another one, injured all the time, had Tommy John. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
The other thing they do is they just outscore you and they can bludgeon you to pieces with that offense. So, but they need another starter. Dan, you're right. They need to figure this thing out. Go bring Montgomery back because now if I bring Montgomery back, I don't have to rush DeGrom back. I don't have to rush Scherzer back or Tyler Molly. And all of a sudden, my depth in the rotation is really good. And that's what's important here. So
Unless the Rangers know something that we don't.
And could it be another DeGrom situation? We don't know.
you know what the Texas Rangers really need? They need a Chuck Norris night for Walker, Texas Ranger.
Kind of funny that possibly hasn't been done. Hashtag we called it. You do it, we get 50% of all revenue and get to meet Chuck Norris.
So I watched Dodgeball last night and the end scene where Chuck Norris. Thank you, Chuck Norris. All right, that's the AL West. Again, we're not going to do the predictions today. That'll be the final episode before the regular season starts. We will do predictions. All right. From the AL West, we go to the NL West, and there's the Monstars and everyone else. Last year, the division looked like this. The Dodgers went 162. This year, they're going to go 162 and 0. The Diamondbacks 84 and 78. The Padres 82 and 80. The Giants 79 and 83, and the Rockies 59 and 103. As for moves by teams in the NL West, the Diamondbacks brought in, as mentioned, Eugenio Suarez, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Jock Peterson. We'll get to the Dodgers because they'll be their own thing in a minute. The Giants brought in guys with great names: Jung Ho Lee, Jorge Soler, Robbie Ray, Jordan Hicks. The Padres also have some great names. They bring Michael King, Yuki Matsui, Woo Suk Go, Wandy Peralta, and Kyle Higashioka. The Rockies brought in Cal Quantrill, Dakota Hudson, and catcher Jacob Stallings. Okay, and then the Dodgers. They brought in some guy named Shohei Ohtani. No one knows him. Some guy named Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Tyler Glasnow and James Paxton. Mark, the Dodgers are just loaded.
When I heard that Steve Cohen flew out with Stearns and sat with Yamamoto's family, I was floored. This with war and everything going on over there, he still went over there. He didn't care. I thought it was then there a done deal. I believe the turning point, the fact was Shohei Ohtani possibly called him and said, "Nah, you want to come here?" And he said, "Okay." The chance to play with the best player in baseball and possibly most likely be in the World Series with this team. Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glasnow. I mean, we know Ohtani's not pitching this year. Paxton's going to be that guy who's just going to fill in once in a while, journeyman. But this team is also going to get Walker Buehler back from last year, from Tommy John surgery. We don't know what he's going to look like.
He better be an ace.
This is the Galactic Empire. This is beyond Murderer's Row. I'm sorry.
By the way, they're also going to get Clayton Kershaw back at some point.
And this will be it for good old Kershaw. But what better way to end your career, Don, on a team like this that has a chance to most definitely be in the NLCS without question?
They have to be. And I think that's why he came back, because he sees this team has a chance to win. And if they do win the World Series, he can call it a career.
Absolutely.
See, unlike the Mets, who have a nerd, a
nerd,
whiz kid, a scientist running their operations, the Dodgers actually have a guy that wants to win and will bring the best players. It doesn't matter what stats say and stuff. So
I don't know. Andrew Friedman's pretty nerdy himself. He started this whole
but there's a difference. David Stearns comes from Milwaukee, where he'll treat teams like a small market team no matter where he goes. And that's what the Mets are. The Mets are becoming the Wilpons again when they were a small market team, even though they're in a massively big market and have billions of dollars stored. Now, look, I'm not going to fault the Mets. They obviously went after Yamamoto and they lost. But let's be real, they should have upped the ante. Like, come on now. You mean tell me that more money wouldn't have gone to the Mets? Yes, it would have. But
I'm not sure.
But the difference between the Dodgers and the Mets, that the Dodgers, even though they are stats heavy, they actually go after players that are actually good.
That's
Always go after players that are good. And they pay money and they actually invest. Whether it works out, I don't know. But they at least go for it. So with that said, it's Murderer's Row, both pitching and hitting. They must be stopped.
Just think about this. The top three in that lineup going into this year: Betts, Freeman, Ohtani. That's all you have to say about the offense. Now, the one thing you could say they're missing maybe is another right-handed hitter to put in between, but that's just being nitpicky at this point. And that's what I'll say here. If this team doesn't win the World Series, Dave Roberts just clean out your office.
This is a win situation. There is no acceptance for loss when you spend $1 billion on two people.
And it's all the pressure in the world. And you know what? They're going to win. The question is, do they win the World Series? Because that's the story of the Dodgers over the past couple of years. Great in the regular season. Outside of 2020, they haven't done anything.
Yeah, it's like no matter what they do, obviously I still don't count 2020 because
no, that's fine.
Let's be honest, they were in mid-season form when they won the World Series. But this has always been the case with the Dodgers. They have this long season, 162 games, and they go to the playoffs and they falter. They falter division series. They falter in the championship series. Like, they always falter somehow. Mostly in the division series.
Yeah.
That's scary. They have a track record of losing early in the playoffs.
Yep.
They don't want that anymore. That's why they got what they got this offseason. That's why they spent billions of dollars.
Think of it this way. They did everything they did last year. And then this year. And they got swept by the Diamondbacks in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So all the pressure that the San Diego Padres faced last year, that now is amped up to infinity for the Dodgers this year. All right. the Diamondbacks, we won 84 games last year. Then they beat the Brewers in the wild card round, swept the Dodgers in the NLDS, beat the Phillies in the NLCS before losing to the Rangers in 6 games in the World Series. And Dan, this is a young team that's fun to watch.
It's a young team. They're fun to watch, but they may take a step back because uh this World Series hangover is a real thing. You know, now the Diamondbacks are going to think that they're bigger and better than everybody. And that's not a good thing for a young team to think that because you have teams that are better than you. And you don't want to overthink things. You want to stay the course and keep battling. If you go back to the World Series, fine. But the thing is not to think so big. Now, of course, a hypocrite because I'm a Yankee fan. But a team like the Diamondbacks, where they have all this young talent, on top of the fact that they got massive home run hitting and Eugenio Suarez, then it's a different mindset for them. So they will take a step back, but they're not going to think that, and it's a dangerous game that they're kind of playing. But I'm really excited to see this young team continue to flourish because they really do have a good young squad.
You look at this NFL team, and last year the name was
Did you
focused
just
on
say
their.
an NFL team?
No, I said an NL team.
No.
Okay, I heard NFL and I was like, wait,
No,
what?
no. I'll make mistakes where a player came from. I ain't gonna make a mistake on which sport I'm talking about. You look at this young team and what they were able to do, beating the Brewers, and it was not just one person. It was not just one. Everybody produced. Okay, from Corbin Carroll, Rookie of the Year, to anybody else on that team. Gabriel Moreno comes over. You got a great catcher. But the name that's going to have to be big this year is Kettle Marte. He's got to have another solid season like he did last year. And I'm truly hoping we get to see Jordan Lawler start the season at shortstop because this guy, the ball explodes off his bat. And you hear that crack. Oh, so I'm hoping to see him play this year. I don't know if I necessarily agree with Dan that they're going to take a step back. I do agree with Dan that their eyes may be too big for their stomach, where they're thinking they're bigger and better, but their teams are still a little bit more stature heavier than they are and more experienced. This team isn't going away. This team is going to be together for a while, and I would not be surprised if they're not in the World Series, at least. If not this, I'm not going to be this year. Next year or the year after is a big contender to come back.
The thing that I noticed about them in the playoffs was they weren't afraid to use Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, and they kind of lacked that number 4 starter. They used Brandon Pfaadt in a lot of games, but he was a rookie. They bring in an Eduardo Rodriguez who's battle tested, and he slots in as a left-hander. I think that's a really solid pickup for him. Jock Peterson, all he does is win, basically. But the most important thing, and you guys both said, this team's going to be together for a while. Corbin Carroll, who's going to sing some Christmas carols. You know, Mark, you brought up Moreno. Alec Thomas had some huge hits for them in the playoffs, and he runs like I used to be able to.
You can't look at this team and really find the fault. I'm Zach Gallen. I'm looking to see it have a very good year this year after a good year last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this
Christian
team is
Walker.
put together. Yeah, this team is put together right. It's gonna be right. It's just the chips are gonna fall where they fall. I say the NL West pretty much looks like the AL East. Very heavy contenders.
Well, one of those teams that's hoping to be a contender is the team we talked about earlier in the San Francisco Giants. They bring in Matt Chapman. Yeah, we were listed off the other names: Jung Ho Lee, Soler. By the way, no Giant has hit 40 homers since Barry Bonds, which I think is
There,
absurd. But yeah,
that park is not a home run park, though. That's the problem. That's a
no, it's
tough
not.
park to
But
hit home
still, you
runs.
go on the road too for half your games.
Fair.
I mean, 40 has become the new 30.
I was about to say 40 became the new 20. That's how it is with the way you have hitters these days. Sorry,
This is
Mike. Go ahead.
40. Great movie.
Yes.
But
Universal, not a sponsor.
Universal Studios.
Yes, I am taking over for President Patchy on those quick spot-ins
Uh,
as
but
he's cutting squid right now.
but when you go back to the Giant teams that won with Bruce Bochy, they had just enough offense, but it was built on the back of Tim Lincecum, Matt Cain, Madison Bumgarner, and then at the back end of the game, you had Brian Wilson and that awesome
Yeah.
beard.
Yeah. This team, the pitching is what worries me. Because it's a it's a gamble on what they're doing with their rotation. Jordan Hicks comes over, and Jordan Hicks is not ready to be a starter, in my opinion. He's still a bullpen pitcher. He's got a dynamic fastball that hits 102 almost consistently. He's got a slider, and he's got a bit of, and he's got, I don't know what you want to call it these days, like a splitter, I guess is the best way to describe it. He's not known to be able to go 6 innings. I think it's a problem for this rotation. You're going to be counting on guys like Alex Cobb, who's 36, and possibly, young guys who haven't had a shot, and kind of fills out like the Mets are going to do. But Kyle Harrison also on this team. So we'll see.
And Harrison's been dealing with something at camp, from what I've read. I don't
A
know.
left shoulder, I believe he has an issue with.
But again, Blake Snell's out there. Montgomery's out there. Do it.
Well, this is why I don't understand. You sign, and Dan, I want you to. I'm throwing this question at you. You sign Matt Chapman for $54 million and then give him 2 opt-out years. Why aren't they doing what Mike just said?
It's something that, in my eyes, I don't quite understand either. Are they paranoid about Blake Snell? Like him in particular, because he's an up and down pitcher. That is a
Right.
concern that a
I think
lot,
everyone's paranoid with Blake Snell. He's out there this long.
because like, well, go think about it. Like, you don't want to sign Snell and then all of a sudden he's not giving you Cy Young numbers like he has before. He's giving you the other years where he gives up 1 trillion home runs and he's a disaster in the rotation. But it's better than nothing. Like that's the problem that these teams have, is that it's better than nothing. Like, you don't want to not sign him and then all of a sudden you guys don't have a starting pitcher, like a good quality starting pitcher that could help out in the rotation. So
And,
there's kind of pros and cons there.
and the other thing is they know Blake Snell pretty well. Facing him from the Padres. So they know the
Yeah, he has
ups and downs he's had, but
he has an upper hand with the division because he's faced a lot of these players many times too.
like to me, it's just like I don't know if you can get him on a similar 2-3 year deal with an opt out after the first year or so. But at this point, you're the Giants. You're converting Jordan Hicks to be a starter when he's never done that before. That doesn't make sense to me, especially when you know how good he is coming out of that bullpen, throwing 100 miles an hour with that heavy sinker.
I hate to go back to the Bronx Bombers, but it kind of reminds me of the Jobber rules.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
With
good comparison.
But one of Joe Girardi's worst managerial moves ever was making him into a starter when he in reality he's a closer. Um, like obviously we don't really think of Jordan Hicks as a closer, but certainly not a
He
starter.
was a closer.
I mean,
He
yeah, but like, was he like a great? I mean, he was
Well,
good.
he
injuries crushed him, but yeah.
Yeah, and, that's the thing.
he's it's a it was the perfect comparison. If you had to make a comparison, that's it. And Dan, the funny thing that you say Jabba, they just were showing the bug incident on MLB Network the other day, so that's why I started laughing. I'm like, I remember watching that crap.
And that Joe Torre still like it gives him nightmares that he didn't take him out
Oh,
or didn't even stop the game.
right.
All right. Uh, That's the Giants. As for the Padres, listen, they were, I think, for most people, the biggest disappointment in all baseball last year. They go out now, they trade Juan Soto, they get a plethora of pitching from the Yankees.
They got some really good, if not good guys, they got some really hardworking individuals. I'll tell you that much.
And that, they fire Bob Melvin, they bring in Mike Schilt. This team, Mark, like, what happens this year if they falter again?
Well, I think by the trading of Juan Soto, it kind of makes all these players' eyes open, saying that no one's indispensable.
Yeah,
Meaning, I mean, statistically, this team's the best team in baseball, the most solid team. Yes, I would say it's better than the Dodgers. If they were to play 7 games prime time, I say it's possible the Padres can go out and do it because the Padres have the good damn lineup. When you have Xander Bogaerts, you have Cronenworth. That's just to name the first two. I mean, you can just go around. How about my boy, Fernando Tatis Jr.? You're talking Freeman, Betts, Otani. I'm looking Bogarts, Tatis, Machado. You know, that's can compete with the Dodgers. If San Diego does not make it at least to the NLCS, I would say that there are players on that team who signed long-term contracts that are going to be asked to waive.
And by the way, you brought up the guy who I think needs to have a big bounce back year, Cronenworth.
Yes. Cronenworth is a centerpiece of this team, not because he hits well, he runs well. He's the one of the best utility men in baseball on the infield.
You know who he is to me? And maybe this isn't a fair comparison. He's Daniel Murphy before the Mets put Daniel Murphy at second base.
I agree with that. I'll say that's right.
Hit machine, they just need to find a real position for him.
Right. But it's an asset if Machado needs a day off and stuff like that, that Cronenworth can go and alleviate that. But you don't lose Machado. He just moves to DH. So he doesn't play the field one day. I mean,
Yeah, that's
there's
the
so many
benefit of the
possibilities.
universal DH.
Yes, there's so many possibilities, Dan, on the Padres.
I mean, I'm with Mark on this one though. Like the idea that, you know, statistically speaking, this team could definitely have a good season. Uh, but what scares me is the fact that they've come up short even when healthy. And that's something that I worry about with the Padres, something that they can't happen again. Uh, I need to see better play out of Musgrove. And I know um, a lot of pressure is going to be on him. It matters to him since he's from San Diego. So that's something to look out for in terms of that. Um, but I mean, Mark was spot on. The trading of Juan Soto pretty much showed exactly what the Padres' mindset is that They think next man up mentality. So who's going to be that next man up on that squad? Because you can get rid of anybody. They'll get rid of Machado if they want to. They'll be
And
crazy.
mind you,
They'll be crazy.
they just paid him 10 years, but they're not going to care if they can move him.
Yeah.
The only guy they probably won't move is Tatis.
Well, because they I think they have they're very high on Tatis.
Oh, I don't
If-
disagree with them. We've seen what he could do in a full season. He just needs to stay
He's got to
healthy.
have
It's a full season, and this
He
is
needs to.
trying to do that full season.
he needs an Acuna season. I'm sorry, if I want to put it anywhere, he needs to be not only getting hits, he's got to be stealing bases like he was in the beginning.
Can you imagine?
Obviously, when he was injured, he had to slow it up a little bit, obviously.
Can you
But
imagine Acuna-like numbers, but Tatis's flashiness?
and Tatis is faster than Acuna. So I mean, look,
I didn't just want
mean,
a Tatis versus Acuna like they're running a race against each other.
It's 60 stolen bases by Acuna last year, right?
No, 70.
Was it 70?
I will double
sorry,
check.
my bad. It's like, when it comes to
double check
records,
it,
I always put a question mark at the end because I'm not always 100% sure. So I always like to make sure I have the right information. Whether it's 60 or 70, let's say it's 70. Can Tatis put up those numbers with the hitters that are around him? Absolutely. He's got to have a better year getting on base. His on base percentage has to be better. He's got to hit more consistently, and he's got to take some chances. Mike?
Give me 1 second. I'm still
still
checking
going.
the Acuna thing.
Dan, do you agree on that?
Hold on.
I guess. A lot of things have to happen, though.
Absolutely. Look, Machado broke his hand last year. He's now back fully healthy. So we should see a full healthy prime Machado, what we will usually say.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, I want Machado, not only the home run hitting Machado, I want the run producing doubles.
The RBI guy, yes.
That's what makes him dangerous, because if he ain't hitting the home runs, but he can still get the base hits and still
get it in the gaps. Yeah.
73 stolen bases for Ronald Acuna last year.
You know.
And Ronald Acuna is dealing with a knee injury, but is said to be ready for opening day.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Again, we'll talk about that NL East.
Yeah.
When we get there, yeah.
Yeah, but we were just mentioning him, that's why.
Yeah. Can you imagine 2 great seasons out of Tatis and Machado, same season?
And I mean, and it's also on you. I mean, he's got to have a good pitching year. He's got to have a good year, Darvish.
But I mean, and not saying that he's on the decline, because he is, but he isn't. Because he can still give you some type of flashes of good starting, like he did when he first got here in Texas. But we need to see that. We need to see that.
Between him and Musgrove, they both need years. Excuse me. And if you're going to compete against the Dodgers, who we list off their starters before, you're going to need someone else step up.
Yeah.
Whether that's Michael King or whoever it is. Because this is where Blake Snell not coming back to the Padres could impact the Padres. Because they were able, on a given series, saying, here's our top 3, come get us. Now you have a top 2, and 3, 4, 5 is a little bit more of a question mark.
Agreed.
And then position player wise, not a massive upgrade at catcher, but just adding the depth with Higashioka, who I know very well. And I know he works his butt off, and he will do everything and anything to make sure that he plays his heart out and tries to win games. He's not the best player, but he works hard.
He's a good defensive catcher, correct?
Yes, he can hit, but he's not a great hitter. But he'll hit. He can hit.
However, Higgy is in the record book from last year. He hit the slowest thrown home run of the season, and it barely cleared the wall, too. I think it was like something in a 50-mile-an-hour throw.
The Judge probably would have skyrocketed.
The ball would have landed in Westchester if Judge hit that one.
It would have landed in Westchester and then swung back to the World Trade Center. That's what it did.
All right. And then there's the Colorado Rockies.
Chris Bryant.
So don't fault Chris Bryant. I don't think I think he was content with what he had. And it was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna finish my career somewhere where I'm not in so much of a big spotlight, you know?
Well, I mean, if you're going to finish your career anywhere, Coors Field is a place to do it where you're going to get more travel on the ball.
Here's the thing, Rocky fans, you can hang your hat on. Todd Helton's going into the Hall of Fame in July.
Wow, that's so deserving.
Oh, I 1,000% agree.
I always love to watch him play.
But watch, just like last season and the year before that and the year before that, watch the Rockies go on some type of crazy ass start of the season and make everyone think, look at Colorado. Maybe, maybe not. And then they fall off.
They've got some good young pitchers if they can find their game. Germán Marquez and Kyle Freeland.
Yeah.
I don't.
Uh,
I still go back to the Nolan Arenado trade and be like, man, that was really a
It
downfall.
needed to happen because it didn't matter what would have happened. Like, I think they still would have traded him. I just wish that the return would have been
Right. That's my point. You got him for Austin Gomber and I don't know what else.
I mean, they have pitchers.
Yeah.
But one name that sticks out that worries me is Germán Marquez. I don't trust that guy at all.
Because he's coming off Tommy John.
God, I haven't trusted him ever. And for me, it's the Rockies are the Rockies, unfortunately. They have a rocky organization, they have a rocky schedule, and
They have a
there's no
Rocky Mountain
cheesesteak at the
climb.
end of there's no cheesesteak for them at the end of the runway. Go out, play your game. Ryan McMahon, I hope, has a good season. I have him in my league, so let's hope he does well.
So nothing on the Rocky Mountain to climb, though, huh?
No, I would do that to get a Coors Light, though. No, Coors Light, not a sponsor.
No alcohol is a sponsor. Oh man! All right.
Yeah, beautiful ballpark. Beautiful ballpark.
All right, Mark. Oh, it looks beautiful. Mark, you had something in the card business you wanted to bring up.
Yes. So, for all my Top Notch Sports Club fans that have emailed and wanting to know and been texting me while I'm on this, it'd be nice if you would have commented here on the YouTube page and I could have answered you there. There is a post up on Top Notch for a $50 giveaway from the Sports Insanity Network. It is a 5-minute video of Charlotte. I will be posting a question from that video at 9 p.m. tonight in Top Notch Sports Break. First person gets it right gets a $50 credit in their account. I mean, $50, that's on a Yankee team, on a flawless box. 220 team becomes 170. I like it. I'm giving it away. However, I'm not Crazy Eddie.
All right, you're not Crazy Eddie, but all right. That'll do it for this edition of the Batter Up podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Live on YouTube every Sunday, recordings wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. It blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Follow us on the socials. Twitter at SInsanityReal. We're also on the Facebook. But for Danny Boy, For the Old Ops guy, I'm Mike Rifkin. We'll talk to you next time here on Batter Up, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Have a good week, everybody.